Hey everyone, welcome to Indie Film Grit, a podcast about indie films and indie filmmakers. I am your host, Timothy Patrick, but you can call me Tim. In this episode, I'm joined by Owen Korb. He's an indie filmmaker in Los Angeles who recently finished his first feature film. It's a documentary called Pull Up LA, and it's about LA creatives using social media to meet up and explore their creative sides. It's won several awards at film festivals, including Best Feature Documentary and Best Director. Let's get into it. And here we are with Owen Korb. Owen, how are you, man? Thanks for being on the podcast.
I'm doing great today. Thank you for having me here and let me spread the word about this new documentary I've been working on.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about it. It's called Pull Up LA, and but before we get into that, can you give us all a little background about yourself, how you got into filmmaking?
Grew up in Rhode Island and always was into photography. Probably about high school, I got my first camera, and I was really into photography. And then I basically started getting more into like animation stuff, and went to college for animation in Fort Lauderdale. And I was really into animation. I still am, and it reflects on the documentary too. Like just being able to do these simple animations and stuff really helped me bring the production quality up in the documentary. So moved to California, like everyone does from the East Coast that wants to do something in filmmaking. And as I came over here, Red was just starting to come out with their cameras, these digital cinema cameras. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit that you could shoot onto these like CF cards, like 4K and cinema, and this crazy aspect, resolution. So from the time I started using these Red cameras and stuff, I was already good with post-production and stuff because I had that background in animation. So a lot of people would want me to start processing this Red footage and stuff and start like color grading it and doing different things with it. So yeah, I just got kind of just thrown into this camera department, and basically from like 2012 to about, up into this date, I'm a contractor with WDI, and I work on this cool little secret camera department, and we shoot a lot of live action plates, and we work with camera arrays. A camera array is basically a multiple of cameras that make up one image. So you could have up to 7 cameras pointed at different directions, but they all form one image. It's kind of like a 360 array, or like there's different arrays for domes and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I do on the day-to-day. And then I always find time to work on my own projects. That's something that makes me balanced. So I can work on like bigger stuff, but then I always find time to work on stuff that makes me happy, stuff that I can, just have full control over,
Yeah, man. That's cool. And, I almost figured you grew up here in LA because watching the documentary, it feels like you're pretty much entrenched in this community. Why don't you tell us what the documentary is about?
The documentary basically dives deep into this underground subculture of this whole meetup culture in Los Angeles. And, I've never, like, being out here, you can move out to California, and then you cannot go to any of these places because you're afraid to basically go into a dark alley by yourself or travel to some of these spots in LA. It's very dangerous. 10 years ago, downtown LA was, you wouldn't want to be caught there. But things are changing, and with this underground subculture that I stumbled onto, we have strength in numbers. So let's just say 200 of us show up at once at Slauson Bridge, like this overpass up on the 110 that overlooks the skyline, and basically we're safe in numbers, so we're able to get around LA a lot easier because bunch of creators show up, and it's just the safety in numbers thing. And it goes back to that whole, I'm originally from Rhode Island. I moved to California right after college, and being involved in this community has really just shown me what LA is all about. And I don't think I can go anywhere else. I think I'm pretty addicted to Los Angeles. And one of the things that I love about Los Angeles is, if you're a creative person, if you have an idea, you don't get shot down. Like, there's always somebody who wants to do your crazy idea, or someone will help you, or inspire you, or push you to keep going with your crazy idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. Los Angeles is a special city, and I've been here creeping up on 15 years, and I'm always discovering new little art scenes here and there. And this one's interesting because it's not like people are meeting up to just party. They're meeting up as photographers and videographers and performance artists, and using LA as sort of a character, as a backdrop.
Oh yeah. And these different parts of town are, they are characters. They have their own characteristics, and you can create different things by just being in. So when someone calls a meet and they say, "Hey, we're going to meet on Broadway," oh come on, Broadway with the lights and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all these different people show up. So you have like performers, you have the models, you have the makeup artists who are doing the makeup on the models. You have the photographers show up. So on any given night, it's always different because you don't know who's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Different people show up every time. So this creates like a different, this whole lightning in the bottle, kind of like this crazy energy, because you just don't know who's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to show up. And what I've always loved about it was that you could be on Instagram, or you could be like looking up a hashtag, and you could see somebody that is really high up there, and you saw their image, and you're like, whoa, I'd like to meet this person, or I'd like to, if you went to one of these meets, chances are you would bump into them.
Yeah.
Right there. And I feel like that whole dynamic is pretty inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the end product is some really great photography, real edgy, and just watching it, I felt like it was, and you touch on this a little bit with the Day of the Dead, but yeah, it feels like Day of the Dead meets Burning Man meets Los Angeles,
Yeah. And, a lot of the culture in Los Angeles, that's what you said, Day of the Dead,
Mm-hmm.
That's just coming up from living in these neighborhoods, with their culture, what these creatives were surrounded by growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's bringing it's evolving these different art forms into 2019 LA. I dig it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's how, if you ask me like, oh, how did you come up with this idea for this documentary? Basically, I came up with the idea because I showed up to one of these meets, and everybody showing up to the meets, they're creating something. A lot of them are creating, these photographs, But when I showed up, I was like, whoa, I already have this background in, I've shot a couple documentaries. I've helped people on their documentaries, and I've seen that kind of genre and that kind of format, and I was like, oh, this is something that I could do, like these people are posting these photos, these creatives are posting these photos on one platform, and I just felt like when I showed up, I was like, oh, I could create a documentary, so just coming to these things inspire people in different ways, and I think we're still finding that every day something new gets created or someone's working on something, so it's kind of cool. I just happened to make a documentary.
Well, it's very cool, and it's a feature documentary, 90 minutes long, I believe.
Yes.
And you've already said you've done work in filmmaking before, but is this your directorial debut?
It is. This is something that I just took 100% control of. In the past, I've worked on other documentaries and other things where I'd have to do little animations, lower thirds, shoot the interviews. I've done a lot of like shooting interviews for other documentaries.
Everything's beautiful. It's beautifully shot, aesthetically on point. And I was curious just because you go to these places and there's so many people taking pictures and so many people taking videos. Did you tap any of those artists for like cutaways or anything like that?
Well, what's so cool about the documentary is you have what I've contributed, which is basically I've done interviews, I've done, the B-roll. I shot a lot of the B-roll, just kind of like that kind of stuff, and then I actually picked up flying a drone for this. I went out and bought a drone, and I did not know how to fly it, and basically I learned how to fly the drone, and I learned how to fly it safely, and I did fly it in certain places that were very, very hard to fly a drone in, like you saw in the documentary. And I think I got some pretty epic shots that I don't think people, when they first saw the movie, they're like, whoa, like, because I would shoot, and no one would see any of my stuff because I'd be putting into this movie, So when people started seeing it, they were like, oh, I always see Owen. He has a camera. I've never seen anything he's done. Like, when is this thing coming out? I think the whole buzz of it got really crazy. So that's my contribution, right? Then what you have is you have the photographers, which are featured in the documentary, and their work. So yes, I did. I got images from these people who are featured, the artists that are featured in, and their work is displayed. And what I think is really cool is we have their images displayed as they're talking about them usually. Or we're talking about something similar, we'll display their image and we have their credits. Where if you are really interested in this artist or you're interested in what they're doing, you can look on the photo that's on the screen and you can see their credits. And then you can go look them up. So it's not just like this. It's like interactive documentary. It's like, oh, this look at this person, Hector. Okay, Hector. Okay, let me look him up. You can go on his Instagram, and he's right there. So there's just this, I don't know, this dynamic to it.
Yeah. And Instagram plays a big part in not only your movie, but in the whole sort of underground scene. It seems to be what's bringing people together.
Yeah, it is a big part. Instagram is the platform that a lot of people are sharing all of their photography and just posting something and using the correct tags and everything. It just spreads like wildfire all over the internet.
I also like the fact that you touched on the isolation people feel in this social media world, and how a lot of these people that come out were dealing with depression or loneliness, and this has kind of helped them through that.
Yeah, people deal with that, and it's because of this whole social media boom and this and that. Everybody's getting really anxious a lot, and they're getting like FOMO, like fear of missing out, and what it could potentially do to anyone. It could affect anybody like that. You can go out and meet with other people. Some people are just afraid to just meet up with people like strangers and this and that. And I'll be the first to admit, the first meet I went to, I didn't know anyone. There. But that first meet, I took photos of people. I hit them up on Instagram, like I just DM'd them the photos, or I contact them, sent them an email and say, hey, my name's Owen, I took these photos of you, great, it was a fun time. And then all of a sudden, they added me as their friend. And then all of a sudden, next time I went to a meet, I had like 10 friends there. And then all of a sudden, now I know everyone, but it's crazy.
So I'm guessing all these photographers showing up and stuff, I'm guessing there's no permits involved. This is just street level, we're doing it. Is that safe to say?
Okay, with certain meets, yes, with other meets, like there's some other meets that I would say more like Street Meet LA is very organized. There's a couple other meets that are going on and they're pretty organized. they'll get a permit from the city. Because like Street Meet LA, it's like once a month, so a lot of people know about it, and they'll get like 200 people or more, you know?
Wow.
So that kind of amount of people, they definitely will contact the city, or if it's a park, like let's say it's a Pasadena or something, I know definitely he'll get but if it's under like the Colorado Street Bridge or something, I don't know if he's getting a permit for that, but you never know.
Right.
With the TFTI, it's basically, I don't know. Have you ever been to Bay Street? One of the locations that we talk about in the documentary is Bay Street, and Bay Street, you know, it's seen some new faces kind of showing up there. Like I think there's some buildings and stuff that are getting like renovated and stuff, but basically it just feels like an abandoned alleyway that nobody cares about. And that's where we try to stay. You know, every once in a while we'll go to Broadway or we'll go to Lower Grand, but it just depends. Like you could get kicked out of there an hour later, or you could stay the whole night and just have fun. There's little things that we can't do in certain locations, and we try not to do them. Like if we're at Lower Grand, we try not to pop the smoke grenades and stuff because we know that there's smoke detectors and stuff, and we don't want to like, you know, we want to stay there as long as possible. So we're trying to follow the rules.
And how long do these meetups usually last? A couple hours?
Oh man, like usually they start around 8:00, and you know, you go there at 8:00. It's, you know, it's 9, 10, 11, 12, and you think it's dying down, right? So you're like, okay, it's 12:00. I gotta work tomorrow. I should leave. So all of a sudden you leave, and then you see what happened after that. So I've seen them last like till like 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's always when you leave that things start happening, and we go over that in the documentary too. Like that, you never know who's going to show up to one of these things. And
Now, you as an indie filmmaker, I'm guessing you didn't get permits either.
No, I didn't get any.
I'm not calling you out. Don't worry.
Permits. No, I didn't get any permits. So it was just, you know, I was there creating with them, and you know, as you see in the documentary, in my car I rode around with 2 Apple boxes, and I had lavalier, and I had a shotgun mic, and I had like, you know, basic red package, you know, like a little carry-on, you know, and I would just like, if I could get somebody to get an interview, I would just be like, oh, I'm going to be right over here, you know, and just get it. And it was pretty tough because, you know, me just showing up there and trying to film these creatives. A lot of people, you know, people who are photographers, people who are behind the camera, you could think that they're reluctant to be in front of the camera. You know, they're kind of shy. They want to be behind the camera. But I found that as I met one person, they would lead me to another person. I always find that's a good tactic with getting interviews is, you know, hey, you know, I'd like to do an interview with you. And they're like, can you recommend anyone, or can you introduce me to someone who would want to do an interview? You know, instead of just randomly approaching people, which I did, but I just felt like it was really easy when somebody made that introduction for me. If you can get somebody that you've already interviewed to introduce you to somebody else, it makes it so much easier. And I feel like the whole vibe and they're just relaxed. Different vibe.
Now, this played at the First Glance Film Festival. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I did the whole film festival thing where I went on a film freeway and submitted it to a bunch of places. And I did see this First Glance Film Festival. And I was like, oh, why don't I give it a shot? They've been going on for like 20 years, and it's kind of a, you know, they do it in Philadelphia and they do it in Los Angeles. And I was just looking into where they screen their movies, and it's at the Laemmle Theater. They do it, so I was like, oh, this would be really cool because, you know, not every film festival you get to go into like a legit movie theater. So I thought that was really cool. So I put it up there, and then I got this ding, you know, this little mail that says, you're accepted. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. It was perfect timing. I feel like in LA, I needed to have some kind of premiere, and I don't have enough money to like go and rent out a theater and get everybody to come in there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the perfect opportunity to invite everybody from the community and everybody who wanted to see this. We played at the Lemley Theater. We sold out a week before.
Wow.
The screening, so that was like super huge. So we sold out a week before, and you know, as you're sitting there in the audience and you have all these people around you watching your movie, it's like I had to remind myself to breathe a couple times because I was like, oh, you know, this is like pretty intense. So everybody, like, I felt great. Everybody was laughing when they should have. Everybody was like sad or like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen next. It was I felt like I created a nice little roller coaster for people to enjoy, and I really felt that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we ended up winning 3 awards. We won. I got Best Director, the documentary. I got Best of Fest, which is like amazing, and then we got the Audience Choice Award for the documentary. So we got 3 awards.
Wow.
With that festival. So I was like,
Yeah, that's got to feel good being your first feature.
Yeah, because, you know, when I was making this movie, I didn't really show a lot of people, and one of the first people I showed was my friend Kevin McGinnis, who's a co-producer on this, and he's he's successful editor for TV, for movies, for documentaries. So I showed him this movie, and I was like, you know, what do you think? Like, is this a real movie? Is this real? And he was like, man, you got something there. Like that movie has heart, you know, because there's some iconic moments in the film where I think parts of history are not around anymore, especially like with the 6th Street Bridge, like the old 6th Street Bridge that got knocked down. You know, that section means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. That's the thing about LA is it keeps changing, you know. Even something like the 6th Street Bridge, which you think is going to be there forever, can be gone.
Yeah, and just, you know, how many commercials, movies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how many things have been focused around that bridge. And so everybody's really excited for the new bridge. And I even passed by it the other day, and, you know, they got like the pillars up, you know, and they're going to have these arcs and stuff, and I think it's really gonna bring people into LA to check this bridge out.
Nice.
Yeah, at least it's gonna be, you know, it should be better than the other one. Hopefully, they will let us play on it like the other bridge.
So you got it at a local film festival, which I agree is perfect. You get everybody to show up. Was that enough for you, or did you put it out there to other festivals? Are you going to let it go somewhere across the country, or?
Yeah, so, you know, I know that what a lot of people's strategy is, you know, try to get it in, you know, West Coast, East Coast, just try to hit some of the coast, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about that. We do have another screening set up on the 13th. It's going to be with TFTI, so we're going to do it's going to be a smaller screening, but you know, the screening sold out a week before, so a lot of people missed out on the premiere, on the LA premiere. So yeah, so it'll be exciting to share the movie again. But yeah, after that, because it's still early in the year, there are a couple of festivals that I applied to. If they give us a shot at these big cities, like just a screen, I feel like, you know, you don't know where this movement could end up. You know, it's already kind of finding its way around the world. So hopefully they give us a shot, because I would love to screen more and spread the word about this.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure eventually when you get it out there on, let's say, like Amazon, people from everywhere are going to eat it up.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Right now, I did get some advice, you know, when I did get into the First Glance Film Festival. Bill, he's a great guy. He runs the festival. I just used that opportunity to ask him, like, hey, you know, what would you do if you made, you know? And he's like, try to get more film festivals. Try to do that and collect awards. Try to get as many awards as you can. And try to get reviews and, try to go around and try to hit people up. And you know, at the First Glance Film Festival, we screened with For Your Consideration doc.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was awesome because I met Patrick, and he kind of put me on to you, and he said, you should hit this guy Tim up because he's got a really cool podcast, and,
Yeah, he's great.
I think you guys would vibe, and that's why I was like, I'm gonna follow through with this.
Well, I dig it. I dig what he does. I'm a big fan of street art, and what's interesting about your film is it's not really street art; it's art happening in the street.
It's like art happening in the street, and also a school, some kind of creative school in the middle of the street.
Right.
It's like this whole like school and then creation. People who show up to these meets, they can show up. They can, they might not even know how to use the camera, but they just bump into somebody and say, hey, like, what am I doing wrong? And if I'm there or someone else is there, they'll be like, oh, just hit this,
Mm-hmm.
do this, and so there's always someone there to help. I feel like as I've gone there and met more people, sometimes I just show up and just I'll probably only take a couple photos and I'll just talk to people and help people out, or if I brought my LED light, sometimes I'll set up the LED light so I could do a picture for myself, but then I'll just leave the light there.
Mm-hmm.
And because 10 other people showed up behind me and they're taking pictures, I'll just leave it there for, and I'll just say, okay, everybody get the shot. So it's a giving thing too. Like, people go there not to just take photos, but they go there to help out other people and other creatives. And you'll see in people's work. Like, even if you go to somebody's Instagram and just scroll down and be like, all right, well, this is the first meet they went to, and now look at them.
Mm.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That within 2 weeks or 3 meets or something, you're doing that level of work. I just think it's awesome what's going on.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot more fun than sitting in a classroom.
Oh my God, it is. And if you go to like TFTI, you go to like Street Meet, these events are basically free. And the first time I went to, well, I think the first or second time was when it just popped in my head. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, I went to this event, I took photos, I met a lot of people, I'm going home, and I'm like, I haven't even spent any money.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, people who are trying to build their portfolio, you go to these things and there's models there. You don't have to track down a bunch of people for different looks. It's all right there, and everybody seems to be very willing to put themselves out there for each other.
Yeah, and when everybody comes together, the models, they need photos of themselves for their portfolio. Mm-hmm. The photographers, they're put in a less stressed situation where they can take photos, they can bring them back to their computer, they can go through and see what works and what doesn't. And because some of these meets are at night and some of them are during the day, the ones that are at night, you're doing some extreme stuff. Like, you're shooting fire, mm-hmm. You're shooting like steel wool. You have to have slow shutter. You have to have a fast shutter. You have to, you're really stress testing these cameras. So I think those kind of situations really show you what your camera's capable of. And so everybody has a certain reason for coming. But when people get together, it's like lightning in a bottle, creation.
Mm-hmm.
Good feeling, definitely.
Very cool. So, as a filmmaker, what do you think's next after this?
I have a couple other ideas for documentaries, but like right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to just put the energy into this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like all my energy is like in this one, but might do something with I don't know, just something to give back. There's a lot of opportunity to help people with cameras. Maybe teach them about cameras. Maybe there's something involved where I can screen the movie and then give somebody a camera to shoot with or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's definitely some opportunity like that. But I'm just kind of. I think this project deserves my, my full attention.
Yeah,
So
man.
I'm definitely gonna keep going hard on it because it still is early in the year, and I think there's still a lot of potential festivals that could pop up. So, and then I'm very excited to actually share the documentary again on the 13th with the TFTI LA organization. So they've been really awesome and just kind of like, just let me create this awesome thing around them, and the whole community is basically like had my back. So I couldn't have done it without them. Everybody in the community had my back. They would always be asking me like, "Hey, what's going on, Owen? Like, hey, how's it? How's the documentary coming up?" They always hit me up. They always kept me straight with it. So
Yeah.
I thank them for always just always asking me about it. They cared. They cared about this like I cared about this. So.
Well, it shows. I mean, it's really well done. I enjoyed watching it, and I can't wait to see what else you throw out there at the world, because it's very entertaining and beautifully shot.
Thank you.
You want to tell the people how to reach you out there? You on Twitter or Instagram, probably?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. You can go if you wanna. The project has its Instagram. It's at @pullup_LA. That's that's the moving one. And then if you want to look at my personal stuff, I have stuff from all over the world: China, Japan, like all kinds of cool photos. Mainly street photography, and you'll see a lot of meat photos too on my accounts at Oblek OOLBLECK. That's like my street photography one. So yeah, and then we have pullupla.com. I'm been really working hard on that website to just update with all the blog stuff, and pullupla.com. You could definitely get in touch with me. And don't forget to follow at TFTI_LA if you want to come out to a meet, or Street Meet LA. Those two are really big. There's also, there's a couple other meets too, like Shutterclick. They do a big, they call it the mega meet, which is pretty crazy. That's like I think 400 or 500 people show up to that one. So.
Damn.
just follow us, and you'll know what's coming up next. But basically, what happens is they post a flyer up usually like 2 days before, a day before, and they say meet up, and just go with your heart and go with it. You owe it to yourself to get out and be creative. Everybody. And you'll get some exercise too. I'm telling you, you can check your steps on your iPhone.
I appreciate you being on the podcast, Owen. This was great. I really enjoyed talking with you, and best of luck on your second screening. I hope it goes well.
Thank you, Tim, for letting me get on your podcast, man, your platform, and much love with the podcast. I'll continue to listen. I've subscribed, and definitely, you got something good here.
Well, that's that. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Indie Film Grit podcast. Feel free to go to our website and check out the show notes, indiefilmgrit.com. Follow us on Twitter @indiefilmgrit. And if you enjoyed this episode, give us a rating on iTunes. Well, I should really wrap this up, but before I do, let me ask you something. Do you have the courage, the passion, and the perseverance to make indie films? Do you have enough indie film grit?